Hey everybody, welcome to Stuff Sketched with Gregg Schigiel. I am Gregg Schigiel, and on this episode, it's a relatively short one. I am drawing Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham. For anybody not familiar, this is a pig version of Spider-Man that is part of Marvel Comics, Marvel Tales, Tails. I first came to learn about Peter Porker when I was probably like 10 or so, as part of the Marvel Comics Star Comics line, which was a line of comics for kids at the time. And Peter Porker, Spectacular Spider-Ham, was one of those comics, and I thought it was very cool at the time. In general, I liked animal stuff. DC had a series called Captain Carrot and the Amazing Zoo Crew, and one of the early comics I remember buying off a newsstand was an issue of that where they crossed over into another universe where there was a group of superheroes called the Just a Lot of Animals, which was like a Justice League of animals with Bat Mouse and was it also Super Mouse, or it might have been Super Cat. There was Wonder Wabbit, which was a rabbit Wonder Woman. Anyway, I've always had a fondness for the anthropomorphic, animalized superhero things. So in this instance, I'm drawing Spider-Ham because it's probably the most famous of the bunch that folks would recognize. I did, a bunch of years ago, try and pitch a Spider-Ham story. Once I tried to pitch it as the writer and artist, and then later, more robustly, I worked with Jacob Shabat, who's incredibly talented and skilled in a Spider-Ham pitch that I've posted it to one of my websites. I'll link to that below if you want to read what we had proposed way back when, probably in like 2007, maybe earlier. But at the time, Spider-Ham was spoken for, so we never got to do that story. Instead, we ended up doing a X-Babies story. But anyway, what you're seeing on the screen is what you typically see from the way I draw these things. I do think I got some of the costume details wrong, as you'll see when I start inking it. I think I got the snout a little off in terms of where the web lines go. But you can also see that there is still construction, even in a cartoony figure. Something I talk about a lot in these videos is the construction and the cake metaphor of measuring and mixing your ingredients properly. And even with a character that is cartoony and doesn't fit the rules of human anatomy or proportion, I'm still building the construction, making sure things have shape and form before I start inking, which is what I'm doing now. But yeah, I've always liked the anthropomorphic animals. Now the comics themselves, I've since gone back and reread them, and I mean, with all due respect to the people that made those comics, I don't like them as much as I think I did when I was a kid. I think I mostly like the idea of them, the animals and the names and stuff, but a lot of the stories were, I guess, humor comics, a lot of puns, and I tend to think like, you could do some cool adventure stories with these characters and still make them funny, still have puns and stuff, and still play with the names of the various superheroes as animals. But, c'est la vie. A friend of mine has been doing some very cool animal superhero things on Instagram. If you look up Marvel Tales, Tails, on Instagram. Did I say Instagram? I can't remember. I was so busy spelling. But he has done a whole bunch of these things, and he's drawing them as much more realistic animals. A lot less of the sort of squash and stretch cartooning that you're seeing here. But they're very cool. And if you go to go to that Instagram page, you'll see. I mean, there's a lot of them, and it's all kinds of animals. When I was working up the Spider-Ham pitch many years ago, I had made a list of all the superheroes and tried to come up with animal names. Now look, there's a bunch that already exist, but I was trying to be a little bit more clever. I had this whole notion where all the mutants would be birds, so all the X-Men would be birds. In the actual comics, they were bugs, but I had this idea of making them birds. I can't remember what it was, but like they were feared and hated because they had feathers something like that. It doesn't matter. The point being, I went overboard in coming up with character names because there were certain characters that were birds that I had to then change to not be birds. Then there were other like logistical things I was trying to work out, like making sure Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, and Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, were the same kind of animal. Because if memory serves, in the comics, she was the invisible gorilla, and he was... I don't even remember what he was. But I ended up making them... What was it? The human... No, the marsupial torch and the invisible wallaby? Now I can't remember. I should have looked at my pitch before any of this. Anyway, I think the pitch is pretty cool. But never saw the light of day, but it exists on the internet. Here's the part with the snout. I think what I got wrong was, I don't think there's webbing on the sides of the snout, but I do think it's on the face of the snout. And I got it wrong. I'm pretty sure I got it wrong. Of course, I did not check this against the actual... Like, I didn't check my work. I didn't grade myself. I'll let you grade me. Sure. Similar to animal superhero things, I've been watching the Disney movies, Disney animated movies in chronological order, and I'm finding I enjoy the animal ones quite a bit, be it Robin Hood or even The Rescuers, which is an interesting movie, or 101 Dalmatians, or the next one I'm about to watch is The Great Mouse Detective, which I have pretty good memories of, so I'm actually looking forward to that one. And then more recently, things like Zootopia, which I like Zootopia a lot. Lion King, of course. Now I'm drawing a background, and I'm doing this very, very rough and ready. The perspective, I guarantee, is off. But mostly I was just sort of creating a set piece, an environment, sort of trying to treat this as if it were a convention sketch. So if I was at a convention and somebody said, hey, can I get a sketch of Spider-Ham? It might be something like this. It might not have the background, depending on how busy the convention is. But I wanted to sort of throw some kind of environment together, just to fill it out and to make the video a little longer, I guess. So it wouldn't be a 5-minute video. Now it's a 10-minute video. I mean, I could have done just the figure and played it in real time instead of sped up, but I don't know. It's more fun drawing this way, but as you can see, the perspective on this. I mean, maybe it's right. I don't know. Again, I didn't check my work, but I'm pretty sure it isn't. Then I realized, I should draw more water towers. So I added a water tower on the left side. And then just sort of doctoring in windows and shapes and forms. And I decided to color this one also, so in a hot second, you'll see me start coloring. There we go. This I sped up. The coloring is sped up. So everything you've seen so far has been at triple speed, and this is 10 times speed. Just because, I don't know, maybe I find it less interesting, so I speed through it. Now, I don't know why I forgot to color his other foot, but I noticed it and got in there. I know I was listening to a podcast while I was doing this, so maybe the podcast distracted me. And now I'm using a different digital pen, this one, the colored pencil tool for the background, which, I don't know, I think it looks pretty neat, the sort of setting the flat, sort of solid color against it almost looks like watercolor, even though it's not. I mean, in as much as anything looks like it looks digitally. And now I'm going in and adding shadows. All relatively simple. A little bit of Spider-Ham to entertain you for 10 minutes. I hope it has entertained you. I've run out of things to say. So as I finish the drawing, I'm going to sign it. That's about all the stuff I have left to say. See you next time.